Hello, my name is Shauna Hooks, and I am the IT Operations Support Manager for the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. We would like to make you aware of changes to the OAKS system, which will take place in early 2020. The OAKS system will upgrade to version 1911. This upgrade will significantly impact how you interact with records in OAKS. One important reminder is that IE11 is not a supported browser with this upgrade. So please utilize Edge, Safari, Firefox, or Chrome as your browser when accessing our system. Again, that's Edge, Safari, Firefox, or Chrome as your browser. In the following presentation, I will walk you through the changes that are most impactful to you and show you how to review these changes today. My recommendation is to pause this recording and print the associated job aid so that you may follow along with the presentation. So let's get started. In order to preview the changes that will be taking place in the new upgrade, you can simply click the box in the upper right-hand corner of your screen as I am now. So you can see this box is to enable the new user interface. And if I click that, I have now enabled that new view, and it should now be blue for you. So you'll be able to test this out over the next several months until the upgrade. Once the upgrade takes place, this new view will be permanent, and you'll no longer have the option to enable and disable. What I would like to do in the upcoming presentation is to show you what the current view that you have in OAKS with the different business processes, and then I'll show you the new view, just so you have a comparison and contrast with each process that we'll be discussing today. So I'm going to go ahead and disable the new user interface, and I want to first show you how to accept a task in OAKS. So I'm now on slide 4. And you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, I've clicked on Tasks, and I'm going to go ahead and double-click on that task. And you can see this is our current view in OAKS, and if I want to accept the task, I'll simply click that Accept Task button in the upper left-hand corner of my screen. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that view so we can take a look at the new view. And we can now see that the Accept Task option is now in the upper right-hand corner and no longer in the upper left-hand corner. So in order to accept the task, I'll click that Accept Task button. And we can now see what the task looks like once I've accepted it in the new view. So I'm going to go ahead and close this record, and I'm going to move on to slide 5 of the presentation. And we're going to talk a little bit about workflow business processes. And a workflow business process is any record, such as the one I just viewed, that goes through a review or approval process. So if it's a record that must be submitted to the next step in the workflow, that's considered a workflow business process. So I want to show you how to move a record from one step to the next in the new view. So let's take a look at the current view. I'm just going to go right back to that agreement that I was reviewing before. And we can see that I've accepted the task and I want to move it to the next step in the workflow. So I'll choose my workflow action, and then I click Send. And that will send my record to the next person in the workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to turn back on our new interface view. I'm going to reopen that record. And we can see that we no longer have those workflow options in the upper left-hand corner. We're now going to go to the right-hand corner of our screen. And again, we're on slide 5. And I'm going to click the Send button. So you can see that's different than what we previously did. And then once I click the Send button, I'm going to have a Workflow Actions option. I'm going to go ahead and choose my workflow action. This will determine where it goes next. I can see who it's going to. If I want to carbon copy someone, it's the same functionality. I'll simply choose the people I want to carbon copy, and I'll click the Send button. And that will move my record to the next step in the workflow. So now on to slide 6, we're going to talk a little bit about non-workflow business processes. And those are any records that actually don't go through a workflow. They're actually created and simply updated, and then they sit there for use in the future. So I'm going to choose a record. And I'm going to choose the prevailing wage report. So if you're a K-12, if you work on K-12 projects, this would usually be called the certified payroll. And if you're working on agency projects, you'll see that prevailing wage report record type. So I'm going to act as though I'm creating one new in the old view. And if I click my Create button, I can see that once I've finished the record, once I've added all the information I need to add and I'm done with it, I'm simply going to click the Finish Editing button, and that will complete the record. In the new user interface, once I click Create, and I've completed everything, I'm now simply going to click the Submit button. So just a little bit of a change, except instead of being on the upper left-hand corner and clicking Finish Editing, I'm now in the upper right-hand corner and I'm going to click Submit. So now moving on to slide 7, let's talk a little bit about some of the miscellaneous stuff that we have going on with some of our business processes, and that's usually attached documents, comments, those types of things. And so I'm now no longer in my new user interface view. I'm going to go back to that agreement that we were viewing before. And we can see within my agreement, I have an attachment, and it has a number 1 sitting next to it, letting me know that there's an attachment there. And then I have a general comment, and I can see I've got a talking head there, letting me know that I have a general comment awaiting my view. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this record. I'm going to change our view. And this is a pretty significant change for you. Let's try changing that view again. Okay, so I've changed the view, and we can now see that that general comments and attachments area is no longer in the bottom of the form. They're now located in the upper right-hand corner of the form. And you can also see that there's no longer numbers or a talking head sitting next to comments. So you actually have to click on the tab itself in order to see if there's anything sitting there waiting for your review. So the attachments tab was already highlighted, and I can see that I've got a document sitting there. But I'll actually have to click the Comments tab in order to see if there are any associated comments. So that's pretty important to remember. If a record gets returned to you for your review or for your update, you just want to make sure that you click that Comments tab to ensure that you're not missing anything. So let's go ahead and close this record, and we're moving on now to slide 9, and we'll talk a little bit about adding attachments to records now. And so I'm going to change this view. I'm going to go back to that record. I'm going to go ahead and accept the task. Again, because we actually moved it forward a step in the workflow. And I'm going to show you how we attach documents currently. So currently, we would simply click that arrow down next to Add Attachment. We would choose either My Computer or Unifier Folder, which means Document Manager. We would find the document that we want to attach. And I can now see it down here under attachments. And I would choose my workflow action and I would move the record to the next step if that's what I'm ready to do. So now let's change the view. We'll go ahead and go back into that record. And we're going to go back to that attachments area sitting over here. So we're actually going to go to the right-hand side of our screen now. We're going to click that attachments tab. We're going to click the arrow down, and you can see now you've got either browse, which means from your computer, or document manager. So the naming conventions have changed a little bit, and of course the location of where you would attach has changed. But you can see here that if I click Document Manager, it's all pretty similar to the way it used to be. I would then choose my document, click Select, and I'd see that that attachment has populated into my record. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to move on to slide 10 now, and we're going to talk a bit about non-primary actions in the record. So I'm going to disable that interface view. I'm going to reopen that record. And we're actually talking about everything located under File. So currently, if I click my File option, I have a few options available to me. You can see here. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to go back to my new view. And we can see that File is no longer located up over here in the upper left-hand corner. It's actually under this hamburger symbol here. And if I click that arrow down for menu options, I can see those same options located here. They may be in a little bit of a different order, and you'll also notice that you'll only be able to view the things that you can actually do within the record. So while we're here, we'll talk a little bit about printing. So I'm moving on to slide 11 now. And of course, under File in the previous view, you saw that you would click File, you would come down to Print, and then Custom Print, or HTML or PDF. It's very similar now, except it's now under Menu Options. I would come down to Print. I would go down to Custom if I need to custom print a document, and I would follow the same process that I previously followed, or PDF or HTML. So the location has changed, but the action hasn't changed at all for you. Okay, so now let's move on to slide 12. I'm going to go ahead and close this record, and we're going to discuss adding line items. And most of us actually have to do that. Either it's by creating a contract SOV, or it's by creating a pay request or a change order. You've got to add those line items. And so let's go ahead and walk through that process with you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this, disable that new user interface. And let's go ahead and open up a record here. And we can see I've already populated it with a couple of lines. And so I'm just going to show you how we currently do it. We just simply click that Add button. We either reference a line that's already on our SOV or our agreement if we want to take money away from the contract. If we want to add money to the contract, I would then click that little arrow next to WBS code. I would collapse my screen. I would choose the code that I need. I would add a short description, a dollar amount, and click Save and Close, or Save and Add New if I want to continue to add lines. So now let's go ahead. I'm going to close that. And I am going to do it in the new view. And I'm going to start with a brand new one this time. Oh, like it would help if we actually change the view, huh? Okay, so I have my new record up. I would fill out, of course, the form as I would usually do. And then I would click line item list to the right of the general tab rather than having an option in the lower part of the form. And when I click line item list, I can see that the area to the right hand side of my screen opens up. I can see that I've already added a few lines here, and I want to add an additional line. So I'm going to click the Add button, and I can see all of this opens up for me. And it's very similar to the old way of doing things. It's just now on the right-hand corner of the screen rather than getting that secondary screen pop up. I still have the opportunity to reference a line or pull in a whole new line. So I'm going to go ahead and click that little select ticket sitting there. I'm going to click my collapse. So it looks a little different, but again, same functionality for you. I'm going to choose the code that I want. I'm going to add a dollar amount. And I'll click Save or Save and Add New. Same functionality for you. So now let's move on to slide 13, because another thing that we do other than adding line items is we actually import spreadsheets. So if it's a huge SOV, we may import the spreadsheet, or if it's a subcontractor distribution, we'll import a spreadsheet. So in order to do that, rather than clicking that Add button there to add one by one, we would actually click the arrow down next to Actions and click the Import option. And then it all functions the same way that it functions currently. Once you click the import option, you would click that select, that browse option, and you would pull in the spreadsheet. You would click next, and then it would simply populate all the rest of those line items for you rather than having to add one by one. Now let's move on to submittal type business processes, and they consider those document type records. And so I'm going to come down to our submittals. I'm going to change my view here, and I'm going to act as though I'm creating a whole new submittal record. You can see that I'd populate it the way that we would usually populate it, and we're going to come down to this Submittals List tab, and I would simply click Add in order to add new line items. And then if I wanted to attach documents to this, I would simply click the arrow down next to Attachment, choose the folder I want to go into, whether it's from my computer or from Document or from Unifier folder, and then pull in the information that I needed to pull in. And I could just continue to add line items. In the new view, I'll click Create. I would then fill out the form sort of long ways here. You can see I'm under the General tab. So same information, just different way of viewing it. I would plug in all the information that's necessary, and then I would come over to the right side where it says Submittals List. So I'm going to click that Submittals List tab, and I'm going to use the Add option. And I'm going to click Add Line Item. And this is how I would go about attaching or plugging in the line items for this submittal. So I can either plug in my document from Document Manager, and add any necessary additional details, or I can simply add the information here and say how it was sent. You can tell that I've never actually done a submittal before. And then I would simply click Save and Add New, or just simply save if I'm done with my record. And then, of course, I would choose my workflow action and move my record forward as necessary. So we just reviewed slides 14 and 15, and now if we move on to slide 16, just a few points that I want to let you know of. Discussion groups, which were usually associated with design reviews, are no longer available. So if you used to use discussion groups, that option is no longer available to you. Adding or viewing task notes are actually no longer available to you. If you're not familiar what task notes are, I'll show you really quick. And so let's just take a look at our agreement sitting here. And you can see I have a little sticky note sitting here. So before I move my record to the next step, I can actually add a little sticky note, add some notes here. Please, view comments. And what would happen is once this record gets to the next step, the next person would be able to view that note. And then once they accepted the task, the note would go away. So it would actually simply go to the next person in the workflow. It wouldn't be permanent to the record. But as you can see, if I close that and I change my view, there's no longer a task note option available or a task note view available. So that feature did go away. You'll also notice, and I'm going to just turn this off really fast so I can show you this. This is our last bit of information, I promise. The spell check option is also no longer available. So with the upgrade to 1911, you will no longer have the spell check feature embedded within the record. So those are all of the relevant changes that will be impacting you with the upgrade. Please feel free to contact the OAKS support desk with any questions or concerns. Our phone number is 614-644-2211 or email us at oaksi@ofcc.ohio.gov. Again, that's oaksi@ofcc.ohio.gov. Thanks so much for your patience, and we'll continue to notify you and keep communicating with you as things change and as the upgrade gets closer. Thanks so much.